this CPP, just in case some of you are not very familiar with this certification program, Certified Protection Professional is considered a gold standard for security management professionals. It validates your knowledge in 7 domains of security management. So this has been done through many years of research. There are 7 important domains. And what are they? We'll cover, CPP will cover the security principles and practices, talk about the business principles and practices. So yes, security managers need to know about business. Then there will be this protective security that covers physical security, information security, physical personnel and info. Then followed by investigations and crisis management. So these are the 7 domains that is covered in CPP. You can see there's a lot to cover. So if you think this is the scope that you're interested in and you're holding the security manager role, CPP is for you. But of course, there is eligibility requirements, minimum 7 to 8 years of security experience. So depending on whether you hold a degree or not. If you hold a degree, then 7 years. If you do not hold a degree, then you have to have 9 years. And out of this, 3 years in charge of the security functions. So basically, you are in charge, probably the manager, right? So the exam includes 225 questions you have to complete in 4 hours. Out of these 225 questions, 200 questions are scored, then up to another 25 is unscored questions, right? So this certification is managed by ISIS International. So there's a background about CPP, and CPP is the most sought after certification, security management certifications. So now let me share with you a survey that was done, and this survey is extended to all the CPPs, right? Those who have already obtained their CPPs. So there's a series of questions that we ask them. So the first question is, how many attempts did you make to pass the CPP exam? Okay, so this is an important question, right? Because we want to know, right, how difficult it is, right? I'm sure many of you heard that CPP exam is very difficult. Many people have actually failed the exam. But looking at these statistics, 76.7%, almost 3/4 of the candidates actually passed their exam the first attempt. Wow, first attempt. And of course, remaining 1/4, about 25%, it ranged from as many as 2 attempts to, you can say, 8. I've seen some as many as 10 attempts. Interesting. So this is important. So what it's telling us is you guys all will be able to pass your CPP exam in 1 attempt. Since 75%, 76% of the people managed to do it. Next, how long did you spend to study for the exam before passing? Now, this is a very, very colorful chart. So let's look at from the 1 month first. Okay, so 1 month is there's around 9%. That means they spend 1 month to study for the exam and then they pass it. Okay, so we have about another 9% spend 2 months, 20% spend 3 months, and 11% spend 4 months. So you can see about half of them spend less than 4 months to prepare for the exam. And the rest of them, yes, the other half spend more than 4 months. Now, so on average, I have done a calculation of all the respondents. On average, it took them about 5 months. On average, 5 months, right? So 5 months is about 150 days, right? Okay, but if you look at this chart, which is the biggest pie out of this? The biggest part is the 20.9%, which is the 3 months. So now we are talking about 3 months and the 5 months, right? Average is 5 months. But I tend to prefer to look at these 3 months because that is the ultimate number. We look at the bigger chunk of it, so it's the majority. Here, 20.9% can achieve it in 3 months. So that's the number we are working towards. That's why it's called, the topic is called how to pass your CPP exam in 90 days, and that's what we want to work towards. And by the way, that's also the number of months I have studied when I took my exam. Later, we shall also hear from Melvin, his experience. But this is something to share with you, to take away. If you are planning to do your CPP exam, so how many months do you need to prepare? Moving on. Did you attend any training program on the certifications? Right, so meaning they sign up for some program, 1 day, 2 days, or a few days program, some form of training on the CPP. So looking at this chart, yes, 58% of these candidates, these CPPs actually attended some form of training program. It can be a CPP review program conducted by ACES or some other professionals, while the remaining 41% did not, meaning they do self-study. Okay. Study group. Okay, so study group probably refers to some local study group. It could be in terms of the physical study group, or it could be the virtual study group. Right? So for people who come together and study together. So yes, from this chart, you will see it's a bit different from the earlier training program. There are more people who attend training program, but in terms of study group, there's lesser. Okay, so that could be the reason could be because there are lesser study group around and people prefer to study on their own. But again, this is depends on individual preference. So looking at some other information here that we gathered from these CPPs. Now, on average, these candidates, these CPPs spend 1 to 4 hours of study daily for during the weekdays. And on weekends, they spend easily from 3 hours all the way to 12 hours. You can see it's hard work on weekend, right? Of course, because we are off, so tend to spend more time on the weekend to study. And there's also this trend, we will spend more time to study nearer to the exam, and some will even take off days, okay, to study, focus fully, probably the whole day to prepare for the exam. Study materials. Now, this is very important. If you intend to take this CPP exam, you must get the official study materials, not just download from anywhere else, some reference materials, some guide. Make sure these are official study materials. So one of the most important materials which you must get is called the protection of assets. Now, even if you are not taking the certification exam, this POA serves as a very useful reference materials which every security manager, security directors, CSO should have it in their library. Make reference to it. Okay? Buy this document. It's a very good reference material, the POA. Of course, then you need other ACES standards and guidelines. Right? So the standards and guidelines, you can actually download it for free if you are ACES members. I believe many of you here are ACES members. If you are not, you can join as a members and can download it for free. Where can you get POA? Yes, you can go to acesonline.org. Right? So earlier on, just now I showed you the page, right? There's a link. If not, later on there will be another page. I will show you the link again. Basically, well, one good thing about virtual meeting like this, if you can, right, take a screenshot. If you find anything useful, take a screenshot of it. Take a screenshot, then paste it into your Word document, right? So other useful materials could be flashcards or practice questions. Right? You can get some of these flashcards and practice questions. Now, practice questions, really, there are a lot of people have been asking me, Dex, where can I get a practice question? There are some practice questions you can find on ACES website. I think 10, 20 questions. That's about it. You can't really find a lot, but I did write some practice question, and you can actually find it in Udemy and some other sources. Okay? Not a lot. Okay? So ask around with friends who has actually got some of these materials. But practice questions, trust me, is very useful because studying itself is not enough. You have to validate it by testing. Now, other methods which was recommended, write and review notes. So as you study, please write your own notes and then do revision of your notes. Right? This is shared by the CPPs also. So some also say study the POA at least 2 to 3 times. So it's not just about reading one time. So they actually studied 2 to 3 times. Right. So those were the information which I've gathered from this survey, and I hope it's been useful for you, good takeaway, especially if you are intending to take the CPP exam in the short term. Now, moving on, let me just share my story. I thought the story will help you guys more. So when I started my career off almost 20 years ago, I was with the police force, and as a policeman, we do law enforcement work. So I spent 5 years before I resigned and I joined the corporate security, like many of us here. So that was back in 2001 when I started off my career as a young rookie security executive. So when I started, all I know is all about laws, okay? Catching the crooks, all this. But I know very little about security systems, guardings. So what to do? I have to learn on the job. I have learned from my colleagues. I have to learn from the security vendors. They were all my teachers. It took me 5 years to learn about my role. But 5 years down the road, in 2006, I discovered that there is this Certified Protection Professional certifications, and find that it's one of very recognized certifications. And I decided that yes, I need it, because it's not just I have got this practical knowledge, but I need the academic part of it, the theory part of it, the conceptual part of it. I thought that would be very useful to help me in my work, especially to help me make better decisions. So I decided that I need it. And the second reason is because I also want to gain better recognitions. So who is Dex? So I have to add a name to it. I have to add a credential CPP to it. So back then I decided that I want to take the CPP exam. So I worked on my plans, and I submitted my request to my management. I got approval to buy the POA and the materials. Mind you, back then it was cost the company more than Singapore dollars 2,000. Right? It cost $2,000 to buy the POA and all the materials. And I signed up for the exam, and also attended a 4 days CPP review program. And I studied for 3 months. Right? So back then it was still paper and pencil. I went in to sit for the exam. And interestingly, Melvin was actually together with me. We were sitting in the same exam, right, Melvin? Like we were sitting together we took the same exam back in 2007. That was almost like 13, 14 years ago. Right, back then, after the exam, we had to submit, right? The exam paper had to be submitted to AC6Q. It took a few weeks before I received the result in my letterbox. And when I opened up, I was very excited and surprised and happy, of course, because I passed it in my first attempt. So that was back then. So fast forward to today, things have changed. Right now it's computerized. You no longer have these paper things. We have computerized. These days we have got this Prometrics. So you go to the test center and do your test questions there, and on the spot you will know your answer. That will be even more exciting, because the moment you press a button, you know your result. So things have changed. But the fundamentals have not changed. The concepts, the domains, all these are still there. The recognition is still there. It has recognized as ever this CPP for the longest time. So all these have not changed. And I would really recommend anyone who is interested to take a CPP to pursue it. Okay, based on my experience, the program has been recognized by many people. A lot of employers actually want it as a preferred. Okay, for candidate, this is one of the preferred credential. Okay, so that's a bit more of my experience. So the question now then is, so how to pass CPP exam in 90 days? Now there's this one thing that I want to share is the art and science of excellence is about modeling. Not sure whether you all heard about this. Huh? Modeling means learning from other successful people. I realized that doing anything, you want to be successful and fast, find out what other people do, how they do it. So same thing. So my answer to the question, how to pass CPP exam in 90 days, it is about modeling. That is why I shared with you earlier on the survey. What did the CPPs did to pass the exam? How long did they study to pass the exam? What did they do to pass the exam? And so here today, That's why I'm sharing my story, and hope my story will inspire you to take on the CPP exam. Okay? It's more important to know the why, then you figure out the how. So later on, we will also be hearing from Melvin to share with us his journey. Now, so here's 6 tips I compiled. Right? Let me share with you these 6 tips before we move on to invite Melvin to share with us. So these 6 tips, I compiled it based on all the earlier things that I've shared and also my personal experience. So number 1, the why. Ask yourself the why. What is the burning desire? Do you have a burning desire to pass this? If you have not, then I guess that the fire may not be burning enough for you to pass the exam, because you may end up the first attempt may not be successful. You may have to try again second time, third time. So the fire must be there. So ask yourself the reasons why you want to obtain the CPP. Like mine, I want to because help myself in my job to make better decisions. I want to be recognized, so I want to have credential behind my name. That's the why. That's number 1. So ask yourself the why. Is this the certification for you? So number 2, the who. So this is about learning from who. As I mentioned just now about the modeling. Anything, not just about learning, passing CPP exam. Anything you want to be successful, find out what other successful people have done before. So my recommendation, learn from other successful CPPs. Okay. So number 3, what? Set your goals. What is your goal? Yes, you want to get a CPP. Yeah, you want to get a CPP. You want to become a CPP because you want to be recognized. But when? Set a target. So what is your goal? You want to pass CPP exam in 90 days? Maybe you are very busy. You want to set it as a pass your exam in 150 days. So be it. Set your goal. Write it down somewhere so that you will not forget. If not, 1 month down the road, hey, I forget what is my goal. So set your goal first. Pass your exam in 90 days. This is what I recommend you because you saw just now, 20% of the people can pass it in 90 days. Why not you? So what are the resources? As I mentioned earlier on, make sure you get the POA, get the standards, get the guidelines. These are the 3 main things you must have, right? Because the exam questions are from there. Okay? Then if you can get supplementary information like the flashcards, exam practice question. In fact, exam practice question is something I highly recommend. Okay, so where, just now somebody, Astro was asking where can we get POA, right? Astro, so this is where you can go to asisonline.org. Go to the website. This is the ASIS International homepage. So from there, you can go to the store there. There's a store. You can navigate to find the you search for certified protection professional, study materials, or you can straight away Google search for protection of assets. The other important place you must know is the Prometric Test Center. I would say many countries will have this Prometric Test Center. So once you register with ASIS, you got approved. Once you are eligible and you are ready, book the exam. And in fact, I would recommend you book the exam first. Then you study, work towards it. Okay? Don't ever think that you study and ready, then you book the exam. You should work the other ways. Set your goal first. Put your mind there. Set your eyes on it first. Once you set your eyes on it, you work backwards. Okay? It has been proven. I've taken many other certifications. It works. Set your target first. So go book your date. Of course, give yourself enough time. So recommended, set 3 months down the road, and then you start working backwards. So the working backwards comes to the when. Okay, so when do you need to study? You are a busy professional. I know many of you have got a very important role to do. You are a security manager, or you could be a crisis manager. You hold important portfolio with your company. You have to fight the crisis. So we have got our day job and we have our family priorities. But you want to get this exam, you should also set this as priorities. So put up a study plan, set some timeline, okay, recommendations. Like what these other CPPs do is they do daily study, so set aside at least 1 hour every day on a weekday to study, flip through. Okay, weekends, put more time. Okay, 5 hours, 10 hours, as much time as you can. And also organize the domains because there are 7 domains. So you may want to decide minimum you have to cover 1 domain per week. Right? For some domains, for example, physical security, it comprises 25% of the questions. So you may want to spend 2 weeks for that. Right? So physical security is the heavy part of it. So look at the percentage of the 7 domains and pace yourself accordingly. Right? So the last one, the how. Like you decided the why, what you want to do. Now let's talk about the how. How to help you to achieve it, there are a few important things you need to take note of. The study strategies. Now this is important. This is like going back to school. Learn some memory retention techniques. There are just too many numbers to remember. Okay, so use some memory retention techniques like mnemonics techniques. So that will help you to remember a list of items. You have to rely on that. Okay? Then use exam strategies. So this certification exam is not just about your knowledge about the domains. It is also about exam strategies, because you go to the exam, you got 4 hours. So how do you pace yourself to do the 225 questions? How do you answer the questions? There are techniques to do it. Okay, how do you eliminate, right? So that is one of the strategies. Do elimination. Don't jump straight into it. So these are things you need to find out. Exam strategies, and of course, get coached. Find someone to coach you. Attend a training program. Like I've done, attended a 4 days CPP review program. That will really help you, because during the 4 days crash course there, the CPPs, the experienced CPPs will share with you some of the tips over there. Right, so this is the 6 steps that you pass your CPP exam in 90 days. I hope this has been useful for you. Right, so now is the next important segment. Today we have got this guest speaker. He's the ACES Board Certification Triple Crown, Melvin Pang, CPP, PSP, PCI. So he will share with us his experience, his journey. Okay, so let me now stop share and I will invite Melvin. All right, Melvin. Okay, so Melvin, I have known Melvin for many years. He is a Senior Vice President with International Global Bank. He holds a very important role. So I'm going to ask Melvin, probably you can just give us a short introductions about yourself. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you, Dex. I hope you can hear my voice.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, thank you, Dex. Yeah, for this opportunity to share with all of you my experience in getting the CPP, and of course PSP and PCI. So just a brief introduction of myself. I have about 24 years of experience in the security industry, including 7.5 years as a law enforcement officer in the Singapore Police Force. So in fact, Dex and I, we were in the same police station, and we were in fact ex-colleagues in the police force. So like Dex mentioned, almost 16 years, coming to almost 16 years in Citibank as a Senior Vice President, taking care of security operation in Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, and the Regional Command Center for Asia Pacific. And I was also part of the ACES Singapore Chapter Management Committee from 2015 to 2018, where I was the Honorary Secretary from 2017 to 2018. And I'm currently also part of the ACES Singapore Honorary Facilitators for the CPP and PSP review programs. And I obtained my CPP in 2017 and PSP in March 2017. So after 10 years, after 10 years obtaining my CPP, I proceed to obtain my PSP in 2017, and of course my PCI 1 year later in 2018. Thank you, Dex.
Right. So thank you, Melvin. That was very experienced. You can see Melvin got almost 20 years of corporate experience, law and corporate experience. So now let's probably, okay, I actually open it to the floor also. So if you have got questions regarding the CPP, you can actually raise your hand, unmute yourself to ask the questions, or you can post it in the chat. Okay. So as you think the question or prepare the questions, probably I will start by asking Melvin some questions. Okay. So firstly, I want to check with us, Melvin. You are a triple crown. Okay, so gentlemen here, triple crown means you hold the CPP, PSP, and PCI. Right? So he is one of the few in Singapore that hold this triple crown. In fact, he is one of the earliest who started this. Once he kickstart this, there are many others who also follow him to become a triple crown or double crown. Right? Some people get CPP, PSP. So we can see more and more people are just following these trends. So I'd like to ask Melvin, why did you choose to pursue all the 3 certifications?
Thank you, Dex. So I obtained my CPP in 2007. So I managed to pass the exam on my first attempt. So in fact, it's quite similar to that. So I left the police force in 2004 and joined Citibank as a security officer. So coming from a public sector to a private sector security. So after a few years of learning practical security operation and experience, I felt it was the right time for me to take a recognized certification to elevate my professional stature and gain peer recognition and broaden my knowledge base. So I decided to take the CPP exam after, in fact, being introduced by the program from DEX. So it's also part of my self-belief that it's important to always embrace lifelong learning and always learn, relearn, and unlearn. So when I was part of the ASIS Singapore Management Committee between 2005 to 2018, so when I look at the list of current active members with ASIS certification in Singapore, so there was none. So we used to have one member, Stephen. So Stephen, I believe he was the first local to obtain the certification, but shortly after he left for overseas work. So I told myself that ASIS certification have always been seen as a gold standard in security with a robust body of knowledge that an aspiring or seasoned security personnel will definitely gain immense knowledge and recognition by getting this certification. So at that time, I hope that by getting the 3 ASIS certifications, the CPP, PSP, and PCI, I can inspire more security professionals in Singapore and in Asia Pacific to go for the ASIS certification.
Right. Thank you, Melvin. So, okay, there's a question. When exactly should you take? When exactly should you take your review program? Beginning of your study journey or nearer to the exam? Melvin maybe can help to address this question.
Sorry again.
When exactly should you take the CPP review program? Beginning of the study journey or nearer to the exam?
Based on my experience, I would say you need to take the CPP review program when you are near to your exam. Maybe I would say about maybe 1 month, because I've seen people who have attended our CPP program, and they did some before they attend the program, they did some parallel studying on their own. So when they have that baseline knowledge, and when they came to attend our CPP review program, so it enhanced what they have learned. So it built on what they already know, and they can clarify with the facilitators on any and clear their doubts. So with that, in fact, they have a strong foundation, and in fact have the confidence to take the exam. So I would say preferably 1 month before you take the review program. maybe just to clarify, in fact, for myself, when I take the when I took the CPP exam, before that I did not attend any review program for CPP. But having said that, when I was studying for my PSP, yes, I did attended the PSP review program.
Thank you, Melvin. You're the smart one. Back then, I was actually the one who took the CPB review program. Now, back then, in 2007, the format was a bit different. In fact, I actually studied for 3 months on my own first. So, and I booked my exam. So this exam actually is coincide together with this CPP review program. So what it meant is I sit through the 4-day CPP review program. First day, second day, third day, fourth day. After that, the 5th day is my exam. Okay, so that was the format previously. But these days it's quite different because again, now it's computerized. It is through the Prometrics test center. You can book the exam anytime. So actually that is even better. It's more flexible. Okay, so you just check the availability of any CPP review program and then you book the test date. Okay. Okay, so there's one interesting question. Wow, this one sensitive question. Melvin is a bit of sensitive. Ask age. I don't know whether you want to share. How old were you when you achieved CPP?
So I was around 31 years old when I achieved the CPP certification.
Okay. I'm not sure what's the basis of that questions, but I hope that I think it's Vegan asked the question. Okay. Let's move on to the next question now. Okay. How many years is the CPP certificate valid before having to clock CPE points? And how many CPE points required to retain the certifications? David?
Yeah, so the CPP certification is valid for 3 years. And you need 60 points, if I'm not wrong, for the CPE points. And it can be pretty easy to hit that as long as you attend exhibitions, seminars, or any security-related training, and you'll be able to clock that as CPE points. So if you are, let's say you are fire safety manager, even if you attend related fire safety related seminars, that can also be counted as a CPE points.
Yeah. In fact, actually, I absolutely agree with Melvin. In fact, AC's CPE points is very flexible. I would say any programs that you attend, as long as you submit it with the relevant supporting documents, ACs review it and likely they will approve it. And in fact, by just attending this Security 4.0 webinar, you already earn 1 CPE points. Today is actually the 3rd session. So those who have been following the this Security 4.0 webinar, you will have earned 3 CPE points for free. So it's not difficult to earn the CPE points, right? So next questions. How much should you concentrate on AC standards and guidelines? Okay, I think that is for the starting. How much efforts should you be focusing on the AC standards and guidelines?
So I believe you are referring to the POA. So in fact, my study was primarily focused on all the POA books.
I think it's referring to those standards, no? If I'm not wrong. Victor, if you may want to confirm, I think it's referring to all those standards and guides, not the POA, I believe.
In fact, for myself, I did not really focus much on the AC standards and guides. So my study was primarily on the POA, Protection of Assets books. But of course, there are altogether 7 domains. So there are quite a number of books for you to read. So yeah, I spend most of my weekends studying for the exam, and like what Dex mentioned in the survey, I took a few days leave before the exam to study on my own. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Melvin. Yeah, yes, in fact, I think the most important document, reference material to study is the POA. Yes, so officially, the questions can also come from the standards and guides. So if you can, of course, also study that. So let's move on to the next question. How much is the technical data and statistical data in POA important from examination point of view? So talking about all the technical data statistics, is it important?
I believe you are referring to those like how many meters away, or those figures or numbers or statistics.
Yeah.
I would say, in fact, when I took the exam, I don't recall that many questions related to such figures. What about you, Dex? Can you recall?
I mean, we took the exam almost 13, 14 years ago. I can't really recall much, right? But I have heard from other candidates in the recent years that there are some questions that comes out on all these numbers. So we still need to remember all those numbers. That's why earlier on I share about the tips. Use the memory retention techniques to help you remember some of these numbers, because there are quite a number of all these technical data numbers to remember. Okay. So next question by Wei Yuan. As a former police officer like yourself and now working in a private sector, do you see a difference in public and private sector? And how can the police officer experience transfer to the private sector and achieve a CPP?
That's a very good question. In fact, I would say it was a very big difference in public and private sector security, because my last destination in the police force was as a division training officer. So coming from the public sector to the private sector, in fact, it was a bit of a shock to me in terms of the culture, the working hours, the people that interact is very different from the public sector. So in fact, I had quite a hard time adjusting, but I remember when I joined the bank, one of my ex-colleagues joined around 3-4 days after I've joined. So both of us, we were like buddy, and during our coffee break, we would tease each other. Wow, there was so much work. I wonder we can survive. But as time goes by, we managed to survive, and we managed to learn, I would say, a lot of things that are practical in the real world. So as a police officer, in fact, it's quite a different experience, and totally different, because in the private sector, you will deal more hands-on with physical security systems. So it's like CCTV, intrusion alarm, access control systems. So it's something that as a regular police officer, you might not touch on it so often. And if you're just a patrol officer, you will not really get an opportunity to get hands-on on such security system.
Okay, thank you, Melvin, for that. Let's move on to the next questions. Wow, this question talk about a bit of scoring. I think it's trying to say, is it for in terms of training before the exam to practice to get a score of 650 or reputable score of above 700. I think you are trying to talk about you want to do some practice questions and then to score, should you score 650 or above 700? I think it's talking about some scoring thing. He's trying to ask. What's your take on that? The kind of passing score.
It's usually about, I would say about 80%, 82% passing rate, passing marks. I would say. So I believe this question is asking how well prepared. So before you are going for the exam, so you are right. You need to be very well prepared, because I've seen people who took the exam but without feeling confident, because they did not study hard enough, and they took the exam. Of course, they failed once, twice, and even third time. So you need to be well prepared. Go through the POA. After you have finished one round of revision, go through even second or third time. Make sure you really understand the content of the POA, and in fact you will know after the exam. You will if you have the feel good feeling, I would say most probably you will manage to pass your exam. But if you are not well prepared, I would say even 4 hours will not be enough time for you to complete the exam.
Okay, thanks, Praveen. Okay, let's take just two more questions. So the next one is, what is the best approach to eliminate wrong answer? I think this is for giving the exam.
Yeah. What is the best approach? So I would say, firstly, you need to understand the question well. Do not rush into answering the question. So understand the question well, because in the CBP exam, there will be 225. So out of these 225, only 200 questions are so-called scoring questions. So the rest of the 25 questions, some of them might not even have one correct answer, because I remember when I took my PSP exam, so I came across one question, and when I saw that question, I was smiling, because when I look at the 4 choices, none of them were the correct answer. So you need to be well prepared, because some of them might not even have a correct answer. So if you are well prepared, I would say you have a good chance of passing the exam.
Okay, last question. What is the total investment expected for CPP program, including study material and preparation costs? So estimate how much do you invest?
I would say for myself, of course, as compared to that, the investment in terms of monetary was pretty low, because in fact, for myself, I borrowed the POA from one of my colleagues in my department. And of course, as mentioned earlier, I did not sit for the CBP review program. So in terms of monetary, I just paid for the exam fees. But in terms of time spent, yeah, I would say I spent quite a fair amount, because after work, I try to keep to my plan and spend about 2-3 hours on weekdays, and on weekends I spend about 7 to 8 hours. So definitely a lot of sacrifices you have to make.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I spent quite a lot of money back then now, because I got to spend $2,000 buy the material. Then I spent another $2,000 to go and attend the CPP review program. So for those, of course, I will recommend you guys to go and purchase it. Of course, if you can get it from your friends, then go ahead. If not, please purchase a copy of the POA, then attend a training program, because that will really help you. Like for example, this 1 hour session, I believe it will help you with the tips that Melvin and myself share with you. Okay, I know there's so-called you are still trying to ask questions. Let me very quickly address Wei Yan's question. I have a CPP, APP cert. Does it help in CPP? Yes, if you definitely, because the domains is part of the CPP. and you will definitely help you. Because CPP has got a wider scope lah. Okay, currently everyone. Okay, so I think with that, I think we will conclude the interview session, the sharing session from Melvin. I want to really thank Melvin for taking his time to share his personal experience, and very enthusiastic participants. Thank you, every one of you, for asking all those questions. I hope it has been useful. The sharing has been useful for you, and I really wish you success in your pursuit of the CPP.